Okay, welcome to our participants. I see we have participants from all parts of the world. I see Mexico is here, Sweden is here, Norway I think is also here, Canada, so really broad audience. Thank you for joining today. Also Colombia, I read in the chat. Thanks for joining today. Today we are going to talk about the future of dry eye management. This is going to be the last one of our June series webinars. As you might know, we have had 4 in total. We started out with how can we start business again after Corona. India is also here, I read in the chat. Thanks for joining. And then we had a webinar about dry eye diagnostic, dry eye treatment, and today we are going to talk about the future of dry eye management. Before we start with the webinar, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Rechberger and I'm a sales manager at ESW Vision, and here with me today is our special guest from Norway, Erik ROBERTSTAD. Erik is an outstanding optometrist at Interoptik Norway, and a few years back he started with EI and brought EI into the Interoptik group and has great experience and insights to share with you. Yes, and I am happy that he's joined us today and sharing his insights and experience. Before we start, I would like to go through some general points. The first one being that the webinar is going to take 1 hour as usual. The webinar is consisting of 2 parts, namely a presentation part that is going to take approximately half an hour, and then we will have time for questions and maybe a discussion. So I would also encourage you to write your opinion about how the future of dry eye management could look like. Please write it in the chat, and maybe we can also unmute some people later on to hear directly from them how they see the future of dry eye management. You can also use the Q&A function of Zoom to ask questions, which then Erik will answer. So I would now ask you, Erik, to start with your presentation and have fun at our webinar about the future of dry eye management.
Okay, so I will press the green one, shall I? And I'll go here, share. Well, thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for inviting me to talk about an interesting title we have, The Future of Dry Eye Management. So I've tried to put on my binoculars to look a little bit into the future, but I will always also try to look a little bit back to the previous 2 lectures I recently had on the topic of diagnosing dry eye and treating dry eye. But all along the way, I will try and fill in with a little bit of futuristic thoughts about things to come and the way I think the field of dry eye management will develop. So first of all, this is a throwback to Prevalence. It really depends from area to area. We see that some cities, for example, in Asia, some developed cities can have a very large prevalence of dry eye, and other places on the globe have a lower prevalence depending on age, sex, geography, occupation and lifestyle, and also obviously what criteria you set for dry eye. But in the DUSE 2017, where we see that they list between 5 and 30% dry eye. Nevertheless, no matter how you calculate, it's a lot of people. A lot of people have episodic dry eye or permanent symptoms with dry eye. And it's interesting to look at, this is a fairly new graph. This is not showing how much time people are spending on digital devices altogether. This one is only showing how much time that they spend on their cell phones, and how much time they spend watching TV. And what we can see is that it really is increasing. People spend more time on cell phones and less time on TV. So if you add the two together, it's about almost 7 hours per day. Now, obviously, this does not apply to most of you because these are data from the US. I don't know if do we have listeners from the US, but these are Americans. But probably even in Europe or in Asia, maybe we're not so that different. So it could be that we spend a lot of time too on these screens. I'd start to say this, that I think the future is already here. We have a lot of opportunities and we have really good tools to diagnose dry eyes and also to treat it. We need to use them. And I think there's a low market penetration and huge opportunities. I'll come back to this. We now have dedicated diagnostic instruments. Previously, they were often add-ons to topographers. So you had maybe a good topographer with a few add-ons to look into dry eye aspects. But now several companies are, including ESW, developing good dedicated instruments to help you to diagnose. And also these instruments will give you objective parameters. That's really important. It makes it possible to track the development of the disease much better. So with these tools, I think we're going from a tear film oriented diagnosis and then also towards a tear film oriented treatment, because we can look into much more detail on tear film aspects, and our treatment will often then also try to do something to improve the tear film, and not only to deal with the sequela to dry eye that can be inflammation. So we have in practice treatments. That is IPL that I use a lot. Lid warming devices, we use that too. We can use expression. People can do that at home, or it can be in practice expression. There are instruments for treatment that also uses lid warming and expression, like the flow. That's an automated process. You have the Ilux. It's a small handheld device that can both warm and squeeze the eyelids. There is the tear care instrument that is something to kind of stick onto the lid that will give you heat as well. The difference being that the patient can keep their eyes open, or they can do something with their eyes while you have the heating on there. The true tear, you might have seen that. That's something to put up the nose. It gives you a small electric shock to create tears. I haven't seen it in Europe, but I know it's available in the US at least. Then we have modern pharmacological treatments, and these have developed too. Cyclosporin, it started with Restasis, but now there are also competitors in the market like Chequa or Icurvis. There's a new one on there. It's a compound called Lifitgrast under the brand name Sidra. It's becoming more and more popular. Then we have specific drugs that aims to increase tear production, increase mucus production. And I'll come back to mucus because mucus is an important part of the tear film. So those two are ribapamide, Mucosta, and diquafosol sodium, brand name Diquas. In Europe, I don't know about the Americas, but in Europe, we also have an unpreserved soft steroid called Softacot, which is very often used in the treatment of sequela to dry eye, because the patients can use that for some prolonged time. And it's, as I said, unpreserved, which is also a good thing, because you don't want to put in benzalkonium chloride to a preservative to a dry eye patient. You've probably all experienced how that can, what that can lead to, for example, in glaucoma patients. So we have a lot of good tools already. I wanted to say something about human tears. You've heard it before, but I'll tell you again. Human tears are hard to copy. We have, in the mucin layer, we have discovered 18 different mucins, both membrane bound and also secreted mucins. And they have some of these have a hydrophilic tail that will hold water in the tear film, and they have a hydrophobic part of the molecule that will stick to the corneal epithelial cells. So it is really quite amazing how you know when we have a good quality tear film, that it will actually stick on a vertical surface and stay there for maybe 15 seconds before it breaks up. Try to throw some water on your windscreen or on your window, and it will fall off. It is an amazing structure. So aqueous layer, 491 proteins and enzymes, electrolytes as well. And in the lipid layer, there's been discovered 153 different lipids, both polar and non-polar types. So why do I say this? It's just to tell you that it's not that easy to copy this into a moisture drop. So if you want to use artificial tears, if we were to list the ingredients of a human tear, it will be several A4 pages of ingredients. What do we have in an artificial tear? We may have some hyaluronic acid, that's very popular. We may have some electrolytes and some salt water, and something to create viscosity, maybe in addition to the hyaluronic acid. Very often some manufacturers put some plant extract in there. These plants can be of different types. Often they contain sugar molecules. But it's only, you know, a few things put in there. It's not that easy to copy human tears. So you play with the pH and the osmolarity of an artificial tear and to make it comfortable. For evaporative dry eye, you can use emulsifications and spray. Some people get help from that. And then we have the more advanced stuff like autologous serum. It's really hard to obtain, at least in my country, it's really hard. I've seen in the US that it's maybe somewhat easier and somewhat more affordable, but here it's difficult. And platelet-rich plasma. It's interesting, and it from what I hear, people do get good results with it. And I'll come back to that as well, because very often in dry eye, we have sequela, and that is bacteria. Blood does have an antimicrobial effect. So there's been a study, interestingly, at Moorfields Eye Hospital in London, where people just pricked their finger, and you'd have a clean finger, prick your finger, draw down the eyelid, and put a small droplet of blood, your own blood, in the eye. They didn't have any adverse side effects, and it was quite a number of people in that study with really good results. So how would that compare to the more advanced method of producing platelet-rich plasma? I think more research will have to be done with that. It probably has some maybe critical sites, but it's interesting to mention it. This is one of the fairly new useful tools we have, my Barbography. What does it tell us? So I'll talk a little bit about the huge advantage it is to have this technology in your practice, but also a few limitations. It's useful to monitor gland morphology. It's repeatable, it's objective, and it's really nice to have a predictive value prior to treatment. So if I was to treat with IPL, I would definitely want to do my Barbography in advance to know, because I don't want to create false expectations. I want to know if the glands are there and to what extent are they there. So that's very important. It can also indicate need for treatment maybe in asymptomatic patients, for example, your contact lens patients. It could be a really useful tool to pick up patients before it's too late, before they lose too many glands. You want to pick them up, you want to give them treatment, try and save those glands so that they can use their contact lenses comfortably for many years to come. But it doesn't tell us anything about the production rate or the quality of the lipid layer. So to judge the quality of the lipid layer, we need to do interferometry, measure lipid layer thickness, or look at the stability of the tear film. That will tell us something about the quality. And you also have to remember that even though you have the glands on there showed to you by my Barbography, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all working at the same time, because they aren't. And one more thing is that it's possible to have obstruction, even though it looks good on my Barbography, we can have non-obvious MGD. So they may appear normal, but then demonstrate a non-obvious obstruction when you do the functional testing. So it's really important to do both. You need to do the morphology test like this, but also the functional test. To look with the binoculars, what is there to come? I think maybe in the future, someone will develop OCT-based 3D Barbography, that would give you an even more detailed structure with an OCT device, tomography type device. So that could be something that people would look at. I think what would cause the meibomian glands to drop out or to atrophy? This may occur. There's an excellent article out there on this by Erik ROBERTSTAD called Biomarkers, a Japanese perspective. That may occur with age. We know that there are several studies that have shown us that in contact lens wearing patients, there is a larger amount of dropouts than in normal or non-contact lens wearing patients. But there are also a few studies saying that there is no difference. So you have to watch this space. But it may be that there is a larger dropout in the contact lens patients. It's been shown that you have a larger dropout in allergic patients who have had allergic conjunctivitis, blepharitis, chalazion. Several studies indicate that if you have a chalazion, a little bit further on, the glands will drop out where the chalazion was. Glaucoma topical medication, rosacea, Sjögren's syndrome. So that's an important one because previously we thought that Sjögren's would only affect the lacrimal gland, but it doesn't. It also does affect the meibomian glands. And so that might be another reason why you should do treatment of the glands to Sjögren's patients. We see that after radiotherapy or chemotherapy, you can also lose meibomian glands. Lid hygiene. I've stressed this during my diagnostic and also the treatment lecture, but I'll touch upon that again now. There really is no missing link. The knowledge continues to increase, and we know that there is a huge overlap between the level of lid health and dry eye disease. A study by Lemp et al. In 2012 showed us that 8 out of 10 dry eye patients will feature blepharitis. And dry eye and blepharitis are not distinct entities, but rather a disease spectrum influenced by the biofilm forms on the lid margin over time. So it's really important, crucial to control the lid health and to control, to have good hygiene, good lid hygiene. several types of bacteria found in this biofilm on the lid margin, but Staphylococcus is by far the most common one. The biofilm likely thickens and also diversify with age, so it's tougher and harder to control the lid health as you go on and people get older. Again, a huge argument to be proactive and to take action before people get really severe symptoms. MGD and ocular surface disease are both chronic conditions that require daily regimen to maintain healthy eyelids and a good ocular surface. Here's a 70-year-old man, a contact lens user of mine, who came for a pre-operative checkup before cataract surgery. And we can see some blepharitis. He's looking down. I always get my patients to look down. It gives you a much better overview of the upper lids. And here's a close-up. And it's just to show you how easy it is. This is just rubbing his eye for 30 seconds with Blephasol, which is a very mild lid hygiene towelette. And it already looks much better. See, if you can get patients to do that, they can get more comfortable eye, in some cases, just by doing that. And also a reminder to do it before surgery. So prior to surgery, this can be a really useful thing to do for a few weeks to remove that biofilm, to remove bacteria, and to improve the outcome of refractive surgery. Here's another one, a male 58 prior to treatment. He's looking down, doesn't look too bad. But you can see very visible vessels there on the lid, anteriorly on the lid. There are some vessels that are a little bit dilated. Angle it a little bit and zoom in. And if you look at the central lash, right in the center of the photo, you can see two small transparent tails of, these are Demodex tail. I'm sorry, I do not have a pointer. Maybe there's technology for this on soon, but look right in the center. You will see two small transparent tails pointing alongside or sticking out alongside that lash. And those are Demodex tails. So here they are. That was my pointer. We treated him with lid wipes designed to treat Demodex. And this is after 20 days, self-treating, going home with his wipes, morning and evening probably. 20 days, comes back, looks like this. So much nicer. And this is the close-up. And you can see how clean the lashes are. Probably we've reduced the amount of Demodex mites by quite a lot. And with Demodex, they can contribute to this biofilm and to the buildup of biofilm. So very often, if you have Demodex blepharitis, you will also have staph in there. Staph is their friend. Then important to take care of this prior to surgery, both diagnose and treat prior to surgery, because you can severely affect the results if you don't. If you have an unstable tear film, poor breakup time, you will have a poor optical quality. And when you do biometry, for example, for cataract surgery to calculate the IOL that goes in there, it can go wrong, and it can be a significant error. And even more important, if you were to do something like a multifocal IOL, it would be even more important. So it's imperative to have a healthy tear film for good surgical results. You may want to delay surgery if you know you have a dry eye patient, you know that the tear film is unstable, it can be a good idea sometimes delay it to get control it before you do something. You may want to set expectations as well, and to warn patients that they might struggle a little bit more with their dry eye after surgery, and also that it can take some time. And it may also influence your choice of anti-inflammatories that you would use after surgery. For example, in respect of preservatives. Maybe you'd like to do an unpreserved version of an anti-inflammatory. Diagnostic tools. We have many of them, and I think, you know, some of the new ones are biomarkers for dry eye and inflammation. We have osmolarity. It's been around for quite a long time. Pros and cons with it. We know that at least for aqueous deficient dry eye, osmolarity will increase, and you can pick that up. You know, you have the other biomarkers. I measure MMP9. There are more of them to come in the future. So this is a little bit futuristic, some of it. But the inflammatory test on the top right of the photo of the slide is already available. It will make you measure, it allows you to measure the level of MMP9 to see if it's positive above normal levels of MMP9 in the tear film. And it indicates inflammation. And I think it's a useful tool to do early on in a diagnosis of dry eye, but also as a follow-up, because if you've done other ways of treatment, like for example, IPL, and if in the case you're not 100% successful, if you know you still have inflammation, you can consider to treat. So it's a good test to do to really show you whether it's necessary or not to give anti-inflammatory treatment. Interleukins are also secreted in the wake of stress. And these are known to cause multiple processes releasing both proteins and MMPs, and to decrease tear production and cause cell death. Then there's another one, also pro-inflammatory cytokine called tumor necrosis factor. And that will also stimulate MMP activation and limit fibrosis. Other possible ones are anti-inflammatory cytokines, growth factors, some specific proteins, and some steroids. There will be new instruments probably coming to market. We don't know. One of them is called TearLab Discovery. That will measure both osmolarity and some of these biomarkers. I think the gold standard diagnosis would be to combine tear film, a specific tear film interferometry measurement like lipid layer thickness or stability measurements. Obviously, you want to have non-invasive breakup time, biomarkers, and some biomarkers. And then you would combine functional tests and morphological tests. And that should be the standard of care. And if you add to that osmolarity and biomarkers, that is our new gold standard for diagnosis of dry eye disease. Remember this one, you for sure, I've told you last week, but inflammation occurs as a result of dry eye, and it's not causing dry eye. So it's not the root cause. And what I aim for in my practice is to try and find what is the root cause. What are maybe there are several, but what are the root causes, and try and treat those and do something about that. And if I'm successful with that, if I'm early enough on, I will be successful. And then we can offer relief to the patient and our treatment will work. If I'm too late or not able to motivate the patient to do the necessary tasks, it could be that I cannot get rid of that inflammation and that I need to do a therapeutical, to consider anti-inflammatories in addition to our standard of care. We know that IPL reduces inflammatory markers in the tear film. Here's an article in the American Journal of Ophthalmology a couple of years back, looking at the cytokine levels in tears after intense pulsed light, treating meibomian gland dysfunction. And here's another one looking at the therapeutic efficacy of intense pulsed light with MGD. And there are two groups, one with IPL and MGX, and the other group is MGX only, no IPL. And you can see that the IPL group performs much better on SPEED's symptom score on the questionnaire. Their NIBUT much better, and also the vascularity goes down a lot more in the IPL group. And IPL, for the vast majority of practitioners in the world, this is kind of futuristic. Although some of us have started, it is a technology that it is not available everywhere. So I think it's something you should consider. Other possible treatments: radiofrequency, true tear, the nose electrical shock method. There's another one called Tixel. I'll show you a small video of that. It is a heat thing that is applied to lower and upper lids, 400 degrees, but because it's there for such a short time, the skin can, in most cases, take it. I've tried it myself. It was really painful, but apparently for the majority, it isn't that painful. But for me, it was. So these are things that are available. For severe dry eye, consider amniotic membranes if you have corneal defects or ulcers, recurrent erosion. Other options, scleral lenses. I fit quite a lot of scleral lenses for Sjögren's patients and aqueous deficient dry eye, and also bandage lenses. Concretions. I touched upon this in my therapeutic treating dry eye lecture, but I'll just touch upon it again and show you quite a recent case. So here we have a patient, which is a lady around 55 years old, and you can see the lower lid of the left eye, quite a lot of concretions in her lower conjunctival, palpebral conjunctiva. And these cause a foreign body sensation. So she's complaining about a foreign body sensation. And on the right-hand photo with fluorescein, you can see that some of those concretions light up. They take fluorescein. And when you see that, when they take fluorescein, it's very likely that if you remove the ones that do stain with fluorescein, the patient will feel much more comfortable. So I did exactly that. And here's a new photo of her lower left lid, taken away quite a few of those concretions, and she's asymptomatic, and the foreign body sensation is gone. So keep that in mind as a useful tip. Other surgical methods could be to remove chalazion of the conjunctiva. It can lead to watery eyes. The tears will not follow its usual path, not hit the puncta, and will spread unevenly on the ocular surface. So sometimes people can get really good results by removing some of that conjunctiva. Opportunities. I think that there are some huge opportunities. I think other people have seen that as well, because what we see in the market is that J&J have acquired LipiFlow, Alcon acquired Ilux, and so these changes really makes me think that these big players know that dry eye is a big thing. They know that there are big opportunities in this field of work. Ophthalmology, I think I'll have to talk for Norway, but I do think it's slow to adopt in my country. They're slow to adopt new technology. They do not, they're not really on the target buying the diagnostic instruments necessary to really take care of dry eye. And they're kind of slow to adopt new pharmacological treatments, except the refractive surgery clinics. They have so many dry eye patients in the refractive surgery clinics, so they buy everything. There are many patients with dry eye, and in some countries, I think we see that the reimbursement from health authorities are really low. So that's possibly one answer why some people are not too interested in diving into the field of dry eye treatment. It's because the reimbursement rates are low. Big opportunity on surgery. I think it's really important, at least for optometry, to take care of the patients, make sure you send healthy ocular surfaces to the surgeons. And not people with severe dry eye. So it's a huge opportunity for optometry, and don't forget about the contact lens patients. We have many of them, and we have many patients that maybe do not specifically complain about dry eye, but they do complain that they wish their contact lenses were more comfortable and that they could wear their contacts for longer hours, and you can do something about that. A few more things on innovation: automatic photo recognition to make comparisons more objective. That is something that is already available. Most people do not have it, but it is available. Apps have come around, dry eye apps that would remind people to take their drugs or to do their massage or to blink. That can be useful. New drugs aimed at stimulating tear production. One of them is lacripep, a synthetically produced protein fragment of lacritine. Sounds promising. So there will be more than the two that I know that are already on the market. More is to come. Neuropathic corneal pain, as I said earlier, this has been devoted a lot more focus in JUICE 2, a separate chapter on it. We know now that we can see abnormal nerves in the biconfocal microscopy and electron microscopy. So some of those patients that would complain dry eye symptoms, and we couldn't find anything. We now know that it is possible to see those abnormal nerves and know that the patient, after all, is not crazy. There is a reason for it. And I think in the future, we will have more co-management. That some people people are trying to develop a painkiller for these symptoms, a painkiller for dry eye patients. There is one from a company called Kala Pharmaceuticals, KPI 121, which is in the level 3 clinical studies. So it may come later on this year or maybe early next year. It's going to be called Izuvis. So that is to relieve ocular discomfort. That may be kind of a holy grail to have something for that comfort thing, to like people would use an aspirin or paracetamol for a headache. So future trends would be definitely, as I told you, increased use of purpose-made instruments to deliver objective measurements that aids diagnosis and follow-up. Objective measurements will develop further, including measuring biomarkers will increase more than what we have available now. And I think the pendulum will definitely shift from treating sequelae of dry eye that a lot of practitioners do to addressing the root causes and to treat that. So thank you for listening. These were my thoughts today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll start looking at your questions.
to summarize a little bit and come back to the topic, the future of dry eye management, what do you think are the key takeaways of this webinar, the key points that should be considered when thinking about the future of dry eye management?
I think the key tech to use technology that is already available that can really help you to get a more accurate and a better diagnosis, and use that technology to follow up and see how people are doing as they go along. It will use that technology to check the quality and the result of your treatments. Otherwise, everything is subjective. So take those objective measurements. That would be one key point. And the second one would be to, hit the root cause of dry eye, and don't, focus too much on the sequela. Try to hit the root cause.
Thank you for your expertise and for sharing your thoughts and your experience. I would wrap up the session. Thank you to all of our participants for joining again our webinar for the 4th time in June, or even more often if you have joined the morning session as well. Thank you, Erik, for joining all these webinars and really for putting an effort in to create all these presentations and to really share your opinion and your expertise. Thank you very much. Thank you to the participants again, and I hope to see you soon, and goodbye.